Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order at 8:34 on Thursday, June 27th for our school building committee. And I do not have an agenda handy dandy, so I'm going to just pull it up real quick.
Test.
Are you checking the stream? Okay, we're going to just make sure Brian's checking the live stream is working for me, and I'll just pull up our agenda. It's quite short. Brian's just checking to make sure we're streaming. Is it not working?
Here we go.
I'll love to hear. All right. So call to order, roll call. Bob Littlefield. Here. Dave Palizzetti.
Here.
Brian Money.
Here.
Kate Massananti, I'm here. Chip McGarr.
Here.
Terry Lynch.
Here.
Jim Manny.
Here.
Luke Murray is not coming today, and I assume Brian Sylvia is also not in attendance. We do have in attendance from left field Jim Rogers, McBurney, and Chris Spiegel. And with that said, we'll move on to item number 2, discussion communications from community. We did receive a couple correspondence from a community member, Miss Belinda Matson. There was some issues with the information on the website not being up to date. We've been talking about it. We have 2 video recordings that she was looking for in particular. There's technical issue with those 2 videos. We're not able to retrieve them. They're not able to be found. Luke looked into it. IT looked into it. They can't find them. So those unfortunately are missing. And also, we have meeting minutes that we have not been posted. Now, there's a kind of a discrepancy between what the town legal team has informed Mr. Murray and what our school committee legal team informed me as to whether or not this committee, is being advisory by nature, whether it needs to do the meeting minutes. We set the precedents previously, so we're going to catch up with them. I'm working with Terry Marischal from, I'm just totally massacred her last name, I apologize, Terry, from our school committee, and we're going to work actually trying to implement a AI solution for transcripting and then doing the meeting minutes so that we can get caught up and posted. I think that was the only.
Yeah, and just part of, just so everybody at home knows, part of the video process now, we're just doing a double check with our technology on site, using a couple phones just to make sure that everybody can get on YouTube, just so we're double checking every time that the video is live on YouTube, so at least there's a backup if we did have any technical issues going forward.
Thank you. And I think that was all the correspondence we received from the community. All right, where'd my agenda go? That brings us to discussion item 3, project status update. And I believe that would be you, Mr. Spiegel.
Good morning, everyone. So project status update, we currently have an RFQ out right now for environmental engineers. Bids are due back on July 10th. We've also recently submitted the RFQ/P for third-party commissioning services to the town for their legal and for their procurement department. We're targeting the 10th actually as the release date for that RFQ. That will bring on the entire, for the most part, project team with the exception of the move manager, potentially at a later point during the project. So the entire team will be on board during that point. Segueing into the website, because we did have that public correspondence, Left Field received criticism, and we feel it was warranted, from Luke at a previous school building committee meeting, asking us to freshen up the website, make it a little bit more user intuitive. We were told that the content is good, right? What we actually have on the website is good. It served its purpose, and we need to make it. I think the the way that Luke was expressing it is that for a lot of people that this website is the first experience that they have with the project for a lot of people. And to that effect, we want it to be incredibly robust and, have flashy is the wrong word, but we're construction managers. We're great at what we do, construction, maybe website building isn't our strength. So what Left Field has done is we've actually engaged with a third-party user experience and website developer. They're going to have a draft of the potential new website for us tomorrow to share with you. It'll be a PDF kind of ideas that we were thinking about how the new website will look. Essentially, it's going to look probably like some of the more glossy websites that, when you go on to. It'll also work a lot better for mobile. So again, we had our first meeting with them last week. We tried internally to do what you guys were asking, and we're construction managers. We couldn't get to that point. So we brought in a professional that can, but the most important thing is that I'm learning the new website as they're building it. So the same way that you guys were able to say, Chris, I need something on the website now, and I was able to do that in real time, I'll still be able to do that for the new website. It's just going to look a little bit more professional is the wrong word, but glossy. In terms of a community update as well, we have our community update scheduled for July 31st at 6:00 p.m. in this room here. That meeting will be live streamed and recorded. We know that a lot of people are out of town for the summer. That said, we didn't want to let too much time elapse without having a community update. At that time, all of the educational program due diligence, as it's called, all the visioning that's been going on with Chip and his staff, that'll all be completed so we can update a report on that. We'll also have the construction logistics and traffic mitigation plans by Gilbane ready for our first round of showing with the community. So there'll be a lot to discuss. We fully anticipate that we're going to get feedback, and we might have to tweak some of those plans that we're going to be showing, but again, it's an opportunity to set expectations for construction, as well as to let people know where we currently are, that work is still ongoing over the summer while people are out, and to go a little bit deeper dive into the schedule. So that is my project update. Happy to comment on anything else that we feel might be relevant at this time.
Chris, just so we're on the same wavelength with something, so I didn't take what Luke said was criticism, quite honestly. I think that moving forward, that everything would be constructive. If you want to use the criticism or improvement, right? So I get it all the time. You might not see it, but I get it all the time about improving communication with the council, improving sometimes with our members. And, sometimes I'll call Kate and we'll hash out things like with minutes and when the time frames and so forth. So one thing I would ask you is don't ever take this as, if we're going to criticize you, you're going to hear it. Right? you know there's no filter on me and other people in here. But so it's not that. And I'll give this my little spiel right now. So this is the biggest project this town has ever seen. Okay? It's huge compared to what we've done in the past. And we have to get this right. All of us. And anything that's brought up is to be so that we can make it better, make it more transparent, make the public more informed on it. And if you go back to the numbers that the vote was taken, it was 7,700 people, 55% yes, 45% no. But there's also over 20,000 voters in town that some chose not to vote. So it is clear and convincing that yes, the people that voted want a school, but there's also others that don't. So that other people want to see failure, some of them. I hope not, but that's going to happen. So we just all have to get this right. Nothing's going to be criticized from this point forward. It's about improving communication, improving everything that we're doing, and that's really high.
So I agree. I used the wrong word choice. We think of it that way as well, right? We're always striving to get better. For me personally, this is a new role for me in terms of leading a project like this from soup to nuts. I've done individual project management, but leading a team like this, so it's a new role for me. I'm always looking for ways to improve, and I think you guys can tell I take my work personally and very seriously, especially when it comes to this project. So I know we have our next agenda item. I'll leave it there, but thank you, Town Manager, for reframing that discussion. I appreciate it.
I just had one more question, Chris.
Sure.
Do we have any more information from Gilbane, or will that maybe come when we get the environmentalists on site about any geothermal or looking at that?
So it's a great question about geothermal. So Gilbane is currently out to bid, quote unquote. They're preparing recommendations to award for the well study. Once we have a price on how much the well costs, we would then come back to this committee and school committee and potentially town council, depending on how this particular portion of the work is funded. If we remember, there's an opportunity perhaps for the school department to take on this funding, or it might be lumped into the larger bond. With that being said, we need to get a pricing. We want to have all our ducks in a row before we show it to you, so that we don't approve something without knowing the full cost of it. But the study itself, however, is carried under the architect's contract, which is currently in negotiations with the town of South Kingstown.
Chris, we talked about this before. I just wanted to see what the status was on any sort of PLA for the subcontractors.
So a PLA study is going to be undertaken. We have reached out. We still believe that the price we received from Dylan Connolly is the best price, Billy Conley. People have been a little bit hesitant to return stuff to us because there is so much work out there right now, and there's only about 2 firms that really do this work. It is our recommendation to proceed with that earlier quote. If I can get another quote by the next school building committee in 2 weeks, we'll have one for you. But at that point, I think we will need to pull the trigger on the quote that we do have. It's for about $12,000. Again, this is a specialized procurement. Not a lot of legal firms do these project labor agreement studies in Rhode Island. And you also want to make sure that you really have someone with a ton of experience. These are union issues. Unions are incredibly strong in the state of Rhode Island. We also know that a lot of union votes go to these school building projects. So we want to make sure that we have an experienced team that's not tiptoeing their way through this process. We believe that the firm that we recommended is that team, but I think it's on the agenda for the next school building committee meeting, and we'll make a decision at that time.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Chris. That brings us to our next meeting, our next agenda item, review, discuss, and approve OPM performance. I want to piggyback on what Jim expressed and that you've already accepted. I come from a world of strengths and opportunities for growth. I don't come from a world of strengths and weaknesses. There is no weakness. You only have opportunity to grow. So that's the tone to be set here. There is no criticism. This isn't like we're critiquing or criticizing performance. It's what are you doing really, really well, and where are opportunities, as Jim said, for all of us. It's kind of actually a performance review, I think, for all of us, because we are one big team that has been working together. So it's an opportunity to growth. That said, I would love to kind of go around the table, whoever has something they want to share, a point to bring up before I kind of speak my mind. So if you don't mind, if we can start over here with Mr. Sylvia.
Yes. I received, we've talked about this in the past, but I received from Chris last week while I was out. I was on vacation. The first run of a cash flow, which we'll need as we get going on this project, so we know what we need and when we'll need to either go for bans. So I look forward to working with Chris on that, and we'll obviously, as we get further in the process, we'll bring that to the committee as well. But again, great working relationship so far, and I look forward to keeping that going. So, thank you.
Just being involved in school projects before in my career, I know how important it is to have that ongoing relationship and ongoing communication where the school department is being listened to and paid attention to, and I think that has been the case, and I think that there's been an established relationship so far that looks like we're going to be able to continue that ongoing conversation. But I also want to echo Jim's sentiment, and that is that the community has placed an enormous amount of trust in us to get this right, and we can't let them down, and that while some people may be pointing out to us what we take as opportunities for growth, it may be just blatant criticism, but we have to be able to welcome that and be responsive to our community. And I think that the suggestion that pointing out the fact that there are minutes missing or there are recordings missing is actually a healthy thing, and we want to be able to welcome that.
Yeah, I agree, Bob. The community here, I mean, you guys have seen, I can't see Matt, but the community here, as you've seen over the months or year now that you've been involved, is extremely engaged. They ask really good questions, and it's up to us to give them great answers, and we're really relying on this group, which Left Field is a team member of, to give them that information. They are engaged. It's awesome. The fact that they know that meeting minutes are missing shows how deep they dig in, and it's great. The fact that we have people coming up to the podium telling us about incentives that are out there shows you how engaged they are. And I think, Chris, you were aware of some of those last time, but I expect Left Field to come up and kind of maybe put together that list of incentives and things. We need to dig deep as we can to keep the budget where it needs to be, and maybe even reduce below that 150 number to show the taxpayers that we really are serious about the trust we put in the dollars that they give us. But overall, I've been very happy with Left Field. I think you guys have done a great job, especially up to the bond vote. I think you guys were instrumental in helping us kind of move public opinion from where it was to it was a close vote, but it went in our favor. Just would encourage you to not rest on your laurels and keep pushing forward, because as Jim pointed out, this is a huge project. Nobody at this table, myself included, has a whole lot of CMAR experience. And what you guys did with the selection of our architect, with the selection of our construction manager, has been great. Excellent support there. Appreciated that. But we need somebody here working for us, policing those guys. I think they're going to be awesome, but we got to have somebody watching over them. We're really looking to you guys because we can't do it, and we just want to see that continued through what's probably going to be a multi-year relationship.
Okay, I'm next. I can't see Chris, but hey, Chris. He's hiding behind the podium. So communication has been good so far. Again, we've worked really closely with Chris, and I know I could call Chris at any time of day if I had any questions, but just the word communication on two factors of going forward, I think is going to be key to this. And kind of what Kate and Jim had said with the community is we all get questions everywhere we go. Of what's, I heard this, or I saw on your last meeting this, and just keeping up on that end where we're putting the information on the new website. We're doing town hall forums. We're reaching back out to people immediately. I think that's going to be huge because, again, it is a huge community. We had a close vote, and again, there's 10,000 voters plus that didn't put a vote in. So we want to make sure everybody knows what's going on. This is a huge project, biggest bond we've ever had in this town. On the other side, too, is just for our end of day-to-day work. This is going to get this huge project. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces. Just making sure we have that network in place of communication on Left Field's end, Gilbane's end. We all have each other's numbers, but the backups to the backup to the backup. I want to make sure, and again, I have faith in you guys. I have faith in Studio Jade, Gilbane, but I want to make sure across the board that when someone's coming on site, everybody's notified. Dr. McGarr knows, Mr. Lynch knows, I know, the superintendent knows. Just make sure we keep that communication going forward. Again, so we're not running into any hiccups. We have that currently with other vendors where we run into hiccups on site, or someone shows up to a building, no one knows they're supposed to be there. So we just want to make sure we keep that relationship strong, and keep that communication open, and make sure the whole network has it. So, and thank you guys for your work so far.
So far, I've really enjoyed working with Chris and his team. It's been, compared to prior building committee iterations, it's night and day. And so this project is also going to be an awesome project for this town. And So really, thank you, Chris, for everything you've done. I think my biggest concern on my end, and we've talked about this before, is just that teachers and sports staff, we just kind of get into that place where it's like, this is what we know, and we're comfortable with the building that we have, and this is going to be a pretty big shift, and it's also an opportunity for us to shift a bunch of things too. So I would say opportunities for people to get to know what's out there, and so that they can start thinking about how things will shift. A great example of that is when you put me in touch with the guy for WB Mason. Got in touch with him, and he's going to next year start bringing in some furniture that people can start using, and then it'll shift from classroom to classroom. I think that's the stuff we need to kind of shake things up. I'm going to be doing some committee work in the building over the next few years, like that are focused on different topics, and I'll keep you in the loop on those. But I think people learning more, whether it's getting to go see other buildings like you afforded us the other day, that was awesome. I mean, there were things that I didn't really think about until I started to look at other buildings. So more opportunities for people to know what's out there so that they're ready for this transition in 3 years. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'll be brief. People have talked about this will be our legacy and for the next 3 years, we're going to be working closely. So I think everybody here at this table, I think you guys, this has to be top priority for whatever we're doing. And I think that we've taken that. I'm not saying that you guys haven't, but we just need to, however we go forward from this point forward, has to be top priority, because as Jimmy said, this is the biggest thing that's happened in this town, and it's going to be all of our legacies here as we progress.
So just to take off on some of the stuff I said in the beginning, so if, not to give a civics class, but what we've just watched is democracy in action, right? The town could have gone either way. No one really could tell how this vote was going to go. But the voters spoke, and whether it was 1 vote or 800 votes or 7,000 votes, it doesn't matter. They spoke, and the voters have chosen to move forward with this project. So that's where, that was a tough part of our job, is getting all the information out and getting it, as black and white as we could, and let the voters decide, well-informed decision, and they did, and this is what they chose. But now the hard work begins for everyone, all of us. And that is the part I just want to talk about. So I was very impressed with you in the beginning, right off the start, Chris. And the reason for that was the town council, at the recommendations of me and everyone else involved, recommended that $125 million be the budget and the bond for the school. But you came in, and it was obviously not the right number. It had to be higher. We could not do that for $125 million. So instead of us just closing our eyes, sticking our head in the sand and moving forward, we had to make a big decision as a whole, including the council and the school committee, that we need to go back to drawing board. So we could not have done that without you. That impressed me, because when you make an unpopular or a very tough analyzation of something, you just didn't stick your head in the sand. You said, no, this is not the right number. We need to move forward. So I give you a lot of credit for that. I answered, people think I answered to the town council. I answered to the residents. And I live in this town. I've lived here for 25 years. So the residents have very high expectations for this. This is because what's going to happen is once we start spending the money, and we can start seeing it trickle in from Brian and some of the stuff that we need to do, that's where the big expectation comes. What are we getting for this money? It's obviously a very high number that nothing this town has ever seen before. This town is very fiscally conservative. We have one of the highest bond ratings in the state, and it's because we're not cheap. It's the expectations of managing the money. That's what people want as a resident, including me. So one thing I have is I have very high expectations of everyone I come in contact with. I hold people to a very high standard. It drives my wife crazy, and she thinks it's a character flaw. I don't, but I hold myself to a high standard, and I expect everyone involved, especially in very important projects and whatever, that they are held to that same standard. The standard of left field is going to be very high. We expect a lot because we wouldn't be here if we didn't feel that way. And everyone involved really has to have, I'm not saying to you, all of us, have to have a lot of gas left in the tank. This is where the grind starts, right here for the next 3 years. And I would not be giving you my approval if I didn't feel you had it. I know you do. So the areas I see that we're going to really need to keep the residents informed are the minutes, the time, but really importantly is the transparency of the process that took place and the transparency moving forward, so that we can never be accused of doing something to take the easy way out, cheapest way out, or siding with one little group of people. So the minutes are very important, the website's very important. Attending the outreach meetings are also very important. Those are the expectations I have, and I'm very confident you can meet. I did do some background on left field, because I'm not a project manager. That's not my background. I'm not a construction manager. But one of the people I trusted the most is Dave. Dave is one of the most knowledgeable people on this committee and in the town when it comes to this type of stuff. That's what he does for a living. Dave had very frank conversations, and he believes in you, and now I believe in you. So, not that I didn't before, but I needed someone who had a very thorough knowledge of this to tell me, yeah, these are the right guys to move us forward. So with that being said, I'm excited about this. I think I'm 100% confident we're gonna deliver what we promised, and I'm looking forward to moving forward.
Thanks, everybody. Chris, you want to speak too? Okay, I'm going to go off script. Public comment.
No. Okay, so many of you were at Curtis Corner Middle School the night of the referendum vote. We were waiting for the numbers to come in. And when the final piece of that puzzle arrived and we knew that it had passed, we all started celebrating. But I had a hard time deciding which of two people were most full of joy at that moment, whether it was Mr. Lynch or Mr. Spiegel. It's a close call. I mean, you shook my hand, and I thought I was going to have to go to the emergency room. But Mr. Spiegel was just full of energy, and he was just so happy, and I'll never forget that. So, plus you couldn't have a smarter guy. He's a great guy.
Thank you, Dorald. So Chris and I we work very closely together. We have very candid conversations. And Chris, one of the biggest things that he does is he asks for criticism. He likes to look at it as criticism, and then he takes a criticism, and then he's like, I'm not going to be criticized, and he fixes whatever it is. I still maintain it's an opportunity for growth, because that's just how my brain works. I feel like I said when we started, I think it's all of our responsibility, and then some of the mistakes and missteps I own, and other folks at this table will also say the same. The one thing, I agree with everything everybody has said, so I'm not going to reiterate any of it. I do love our relationship. I think this is an incredible group of heads that we've put together. I think the community has, even those who may not like the project because of the financial implications on us, the project itself has always been supported. And I think that speaks to the team members that we've put together, and your relationship with Studio Jade and now Gilbane and with all of us. But I think the biggest piece, there are two asks that I would have as far as the opportunities for growth, and it's, we do a good job communicating as far as I could talk your ear off for an hour, but we need to be proactive in our communication. And again, Chris and I have spoken about this. We can't sit back and react to an email that says, where are your meeting minutes? That's my bad. Those meeting minutes should have been out there already. So I have to be proactive instead of waiting for somebody to say, hey, you're missing that. It's like, you're right, now I'll do it. And it's kind of the same thing with information as to where we are with this project. I love what you were saying about ways that you're going to incorporate some of these changes over the next few years to get the teachers on, like, not on board, but used to the changes. But that's information we can share out. That needs to be pushed out, be it press releases, continue with the newsletters, but making them a little bit more public. But really, we need to be proactive, getting information out to the media instead of waiting for the media to ask for the information. We want to be forthcoming with all of the information. That's I think, and like I said, we've talked about this. It really is. We need to be more proactive and less reactive. And the other piece that I think is essential, and I think now that we have a full team working with us, it won't be as, I won't say important, but it won't be as glaring, is if someone's not there, we need to know who their second in command is, right? And again, Chris, we've talked about it. If Chris is going on vacation, okay, when Chris is on vacation, who's Chris? Who am I calling? Or who's calling me? I mean, he does a nice check-in with me every couple days. Okay, so if Chris is on vacation, I don't want Chris to take time away from his family. I want whoever Chris is to reach out and say, hey, I'm Chris today, and here's our update. Do you have any questions? What have you? But knowing that information and making sure the full group of us knows who that is. Who is your second in command? Who can we, Chris has an issue. Is it Matt? Is it Jim? Is it T? Is it Z? Is it Phil? Who is it? And those are really my two big asks. And it's just, this project needs to keep moving. And it's not just like this group. With the school district itself, I had a couple people be like, oh, you get the summer off? I'm like, that's funny. Like, the foot is on the gas. There is no off for us right now, and especially with this group. We have no off. We may have a little lull here and there, but we're foot on the gas, and we just need to know where all the moving pieces are. So, but other than that, like I said, we've talked. I'm excited about this relationship that we have. Our town is supportive and trusting in it, and I look forward to see it going. And I see you waving at me. So, Chris, go ahead.
So, first, I want to thank all of you for being honest. I'm sure this isn't easy for you either, right? We've been working together for a year and a half. I know some of you very well by this point. So I do appreciate you being honest with me, with our leadership, with my partner down here in Rhode Island, Matt McBurney. I'm not going to respond. I don't think I should respond to any individual feedback opportunity now. I'd like to sit with my team and discuss. But I hear you. I hear about the public engagement. I hear about if we can be more proactive in terms of our media management. I think providing you with an org chart for left field's responsibilities so you know who exactly is in what situation. I think all of these are perfectly things that we can get done very, very quickly. I did reach out to Mr. Lonergan. He is on vacation right now, so I think when he gets back, that's our next step to formulate a coordinated plan for media management. But thank you all very much. The only thing I'd like to say is that this project is incredibly personal for me. I want this project more than I want the schools in my own town. I love it down here. I love driving down here during the summer, and I've been rooting for this project since day one, and I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting to continue our relationship and delivering this project on time and under budget for South Kingstown. So that's all I have to say. Again, thank you very much.
I have to question someone who says they like the drive down here in the summer. Come on, Route 1, are you kidding me?
So it's beautiful. So Chip and
I can
Dave.
clarify to that also. The drive down is great. I'm going to end it at that.
So, I mean, today there was a crash on Route 4, so it took me Oak Hill Road and through the turf, and it's beautiful. It's green, there's always a breeze. It's beautiful down here. It really is.
You can always move down here and don't have to commute.
Yeah, there we go. Already starting. Actually, off the record, my wife and I have actually discussed it. So we just happen to have a great mortgage rate right now. So maybe if one of us can call the Treasury Department, and maybe we've heard there's interest rates dropping in the next. Brian probably knows better than me, but we'll see.
Does anyone else have any thoughts that they want to share? It's unfortunate that Mr. Murray's not here, but I'm guessing you and Luke probably have spoken, and I would think if there was some comments coming from him, he would probably share them.
Yeah, Luke and I have spoken many times over the past few months, and Luke's kind of like me. Like, if we get something to say, we're going to say it. We don't stick our head in the sand. We don't hide behind anything. He's very impressed as well with left field, and and you know Luke, if he didn't have something so pressing, he would have been here. But that's something that came up last night. So no, Luke, we've all spoke about it. Any concerns we've ever had, we brought it right, and they were corrected right away, and that's that. And that's not uncommon. I'd rather it be like that, where you say what's on your mind, you resolve it and move on. And every question or concern or anything we ever had was resolved immediately. So that right there is a major accomplishment.
I think that speaks to the relationship too we have with left field, is that, again, working with other vendor groups, working with other districts, there's certain, it's professional, but there's also a personal side. And kind of like Kate had said, with keeping in communication with Chris, is we can, between this board, Luke being in our Monday morning meetings, I think we have a great day-to-day dialogue. And I think that's one of the strengths of this, is that there is that relationship. Everything can be said. Chris can tell us, and his team can tell us exactly what they're thinking. There's no holding back. I think that's part of the really strong connection that left field and this project have, is that we can tell you guys what we're looking for, you're going to produce it, and then we can get that out to the community.
All right, so with that being said, I believe, Jim, is the expectation from your office, from the town council, that we kind of make a motion and approve to continue or make a recommendation, I guess, to continue the relationship? Is that?
Yes, I think that is what the expectation was of the council, to put it back on the school building committee to ensure that this is the company that we want moving forward, and then bring it to the council, and then move on from there.
So that said, I'll entertain a motion to make the recommendation to the town council / school committee to continue moving forward.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
And I want to clarify with left field. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. So that passes, and thank you guys for everything. We will move that forward, and I believe it's at the next town council meeting that will be brought to the town.
Yes, July 8th, I believe, is the meeting.
All right, so our next item is public comment. Doral, you already spoke about that. Do you have anything else you were? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Set next meeting and agenda items. So I believe the next meeting is in 2 weeks. Is that correct? I was not here at the last meeting, the 11th. So we have July 11th, 8:30 here. All right. Perfect. And if an agenda item was already brought up, do we have others that we want to make sure we include?
So just to reiterate, the agenda item that was discussed would be review, discuss, and approve legal firm for project labor agreement study. I would also recommend that we have an additional public engagement update, because we'll be about 2 weeks out from our first community conversation, is kind of what I'm calling it at this point. And hopefully also at that point, we'd also like to present a website update as well.
I think, sorry.
I was going to say, Chris, do you think we'll have something back from Gilbane on the cost for the geothermal well at that point?
Let's put it on the agenda. Yeah, let's put some pressure on them. I think that's the right move.
I think one item just I'd like to see on there before we have our community forum, because I think it'll come up, is just another look at our timeline for the project. People left, right, center keep asking me about, when are you going to knock Curtis Corner down? When are you going to, this, that? A lot of people know now, Hazard Field, the site will be built 2027, but there's still a lot of questions coming up about, the timeline for Curtis and what it'll take to, knock the building down, put a new field. So I think that would be a good item.
Anybody else? All right, and if something comes up in between now and then, please email myself and Brian. All right, so I think that is it going forward. And Mr. Beasley, public comment.
So when I was looking at the geothermal, the issue of the well field and how big a well field has to be to for whatever size building you're putting that equipment in. There was one project in Massachusetts that had a very, very tight. So they were knocking down an existing school, but in a very tight piece of property. So they actually were able to provide that building with geothermal energy, heating and cooling, with just 4 wells. Those 4,000 foot deep wells. So there's a great flexibility because our site's not that confined. The only other thing I wanted to ask about is, will there be minority representation in the construction trades as part of this project? I don't know if there's any mandate from the state of Rhode Island. I'm not sure what the issues are with union, non-union, prevailing wage. If somebody has some information about any of that, I'd be interested in hearing it.
Matt will come up and speak to that.
Yes, Doral. So the state of Rhode Island does have a requirement where MBE, WBE participation is included in the trade. So I think, Chris, are we still at 10%? So it's been moved up to 15% by the state.
Thank you. Is that it? Good.
Just to clarify, since you brought up Massachusetts, has very specific targets. You need to have 8.6%, WBE 10 Rhode Island, it's flat 15%. So it's just.
Can you just clarify your acronyms for the community?
Oh, sorry. So minority business enterprise participation or women-owned business enterprise participation, MBE, WBE. So the state of Rhode Island, per statute, has a requirement that all publicly funded projects have a 15% goal for minority business enterprise and women-owned business enterprise of all the trade costs, essentially. For our project, it's over the course of the entire project. So of the full $150 million, they want to see 15% go to MBE, WBE. There's a third category, which is veteran-owned businesses. Rhode Island doesn't, at this time, have a specific requirement. However, because Left Field was formed in Massachusetts, it's part of our thinking. We also try to look at incorporating veteran-owned businesses as well. That's a requirement in Massachusetts. It's not a requirement in Rhode Island.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Brian.
I got one more. This will be a public comment, technically, from up here. Not that anything is necessarily changing, but I just wanted to thank Mr. Littlefield. This will be his last meeting as our superintendent, technically. So I just want to thank. We can discuss that. We can discuss that at a later point. I just wanted to thank Bob for this project and district-wide. I honestly don't think without him being in here as our leadership, we would have gotten this project put forward. Obviously, as many people in the community know, our prior leadership was not as engaged as Mr. Littlefield has been district-wide in this project, in this community. And he's really stepped up and taken on the challenges of the superintendent and being the committee here and getting out there and telling people to go out and vote. And I just want to thank him from the committee for all the work, and hopefully going forward, but all the work he has put in as our superintendent in the past year. Thanks, Bob.
Agree on that, and one of the agenda items for our next meeting will be committee makeup, and I'd love to keep Bob on the committee, just throwing it out there. But depends on what his wife wants.
One thing on that, Bob, I appreciate your transparency. You were definitely a great bridge the past year to bring us to this point. I'm very confident that we probably wouldn't have been to this point without your leadership and the trust the community had in you to help us. But you look very relieved. You look very calm right now, and you had some spring in your step when I saw you walk in. I'm like, who's this young fellow walking in this minute? So no, but I really thank you. I know the residents do. I know the committee does, and helping us bridge this gap and getting us to this point. And best of luck to you.
Well, thank you all for your kind words. It's really been, I don't need to be thanked because I should be the one doing the thanks, because I've really looked at this opportunity as a privilege to be engaged in our community. And you know, I think when Mr. Lynch and I were positioned at Little League opening day over at Tuckertown Field with all of our posters, trying to get people engaged. It was that was a happy day for me. It really was, and so it's really been an honor and a privilege. And being part of this project has just been a real plus to the job. And you know, I don't want to sound like Lyndon Johnson when he said, "If I am nominated, I will not accept." But I would welcome the opportunity to remain engaged in this project. It's become personally important to me, and I know it's important to our community. And if I can help in any way, I will do it.
Thank you. All right. With that, we come to the end of our agenda. So entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
I second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.